Hey there, people of the internet. It's me again, Will. Today we're looking at Josh Duggar yet once again. But today I want to start off with an actual question for you. I want you to think about this actual part of Josh Duggar's case. The day that Josh Duggar was unanimously convicted of the one count of possession of child pornography, as his family was rushed away out to their waiting cars and then away from the actual courthouse, his attorneys came out and made a statement to several different journalists as they were waiting near the door, and then later on as they were slowly making their way to their cars, that they were going to be appealing Josh Duggar's conviction. So the question I have for you today that I want you to ponder is, when did they actually file the appeal for Josh Duggar? Now, today is August 24th as the date that I'm recording this. You will probably see this sometime in the near future. But August 24th, he was convicted in December of 2021. When did they actually file the appeal? Okay, on to the next part. So, if you were asked me recently about Josh Duggar, and not necessarily about Josh Duggar, but how does the actual process work within itself in deciding if it's going to be a federal case or if they're going to try it in state court? We've all seen plenty of news coverage of people who have been convicted, and are charged with possession of child pornography, and they're brought up in your local district court. The case proceeds through the state court system, but we hear only of the high profile ones when it comes to federal court. How do they decide if it's going to be in state court or federal? Well, there is a certain criteria that just about every district, and you have to look at the entire United States from East Coast to West Coast, and how they, in each district, divides it up slightly different on how they determine, okay, there's this, and there's this, certain enhancements, if you will, on if it's going to be a federal case or if it's going to be in the state court, if it's a state case. A lot of it has to do with how the child pornography was received. Was it received via the internet, or was it received from peer to peer, maybe handed over on a thumb drive or a disk drive, or in the old days a DVD or a VHS tape? Because believe me, I'm not kidding here. These sickos, they know of ways to find each other out there on the internet. And before the internet ever came about, they have certain groups like Mamdala, where these groups actually got together, and you can Google that if you want, but I would highly recommend you don't. That where these groups would get together and they would sell and trade the pornography with each other. But again, internet is the basis, the bottom floor, if you will, if it's going to be in federal or in state court. So that if it was it transmitted within state, did it go across state borders? If it goes from one state to another, or from outside the country into one state via the internet, it almost always ends up in federal court because it's a cross jurisdictional crime. That's how, in a lot of cases, it ends up in federal court or in state court. There are other criterias. Age of the victim. If the victim is under the age of 12, that's an enhancement more for the federal court than the state court. But they can both see two equally disturbing cases at the same time. Sometimes it comes down to, this case should be in federal court, but we'll prosecute it in state court because they have availability to actually take this case on right now. We're here, we're a little bit swamped, and it's going to be some time before we get to it. Now, back to Josh Duggar. When did his attorneys file his initial petition for appeal? Again, convicted unanimously in December of 2021. from the date of actual conviction, not the date of sentencing, but the date of conviction. That very same day, your attorneys, or his attorneys in his case, can file the initial paperwork to appeal the actual conviction of the crime. Ladies and gentlemen, again, it is August 24th. Josh Duggar's attorneys have never filed even the first step of the appeals process. There are three parts to the federal, there are three parts to the state when it comes to appealing an actual conviction. The very first part is filing a petition motion to appeal. And basically you say, these are the things that we want, or we're filing our appeal on these grounds. And you file the actual paperwork. It gets it into the system and the clock starts going along. The second part of the three-part series is the prosecuting attorney's office, then, or state or federal, doesn't matter, they get to, reply to that actual, motion to appeal, and they can set a hearing to hear, if there's new evidence or, whatever may be coming, about in the actual case. And then the third part of it is actually setting the case in front of a judicial branch. Either, if you're in federal court, it'd be one of the higher courts or an equal across, federal level. And in state courts, it's usually a higher court that's going to hear the actual appeal. So if it was in district, it would go to superior, or whatever in superior court may be called in your area. But regardless, it's now August 24th. Josh Duggar's attorneys have never filed the initial, just the first part. They had never even done that part yet. Like it or not, ladies and gentlemen, Josh Duggar has constitutional rights, just like you and me and everybody else out here in the United States of America. Every United States citizen has constitutional rights to, to have their trial and to have their actual appeal heard within a timely manner. But for some reason, Josh Duggar's attorneys have not filed one, but not two, but they're most likely working on the third, filing for an extension to actually hear why they had taken so long to appeal. They said the following in their motion to actually why they need more time. This is Justin Gelfand, Gelfand, the lead attorney for Josh Duggar's actual appeal. He stated the following: the request is not intended to hinder or delay the proceedings, but it is. The length of transcripts arising from and out of this actual criminal conviction and jury trial and unanimous verdict on against our client and his name is complex, and the possibilities and issues are that come up for appeal are great. These things must be brought forth and brought to Josh Duggar's attention in person. So they're here in this state, and they must go to Texas to actually talk to Josh Duggar about the actual appeals process. So both Justin and Travis Story have been on Josh Duggar's defense team since his actual trial. And both of them, you would think they would be, up to date on the information within the actual case itself. It wasn't until August 12th that they filed an actual motion in federal court to receive additional documentation from the actual government. Again, they were supposed to have this ready, the initial part of the appeal, ready in July, but they didn't do it. They waited until August 12th, just before the deadline was about to run out again, to ask, before they were asking for additional time. They waited until then to ask for documentation. I know there's a lot of paperwork involved in a court case, and you would be you'd be shocked just how much paperwork is involved in something like this. I've never seen an entire case file, but trust me, when they walk into court with a file box and binders on top of that file box, that are packed full of papers, that's usually about correct for in a simple to modest complexity of a case. When will they ever file the appeal? Will they ever file it? Is it more that they're waiting for Jim Bob, and Michelle to pony up some money, or maybe Anna to pony up some money to pay for the appeals process? Because they're not going to do it for free. But why are they still dragging their feet? It's an interesting question to ponder. Thank you for joining me today. I hope each and every one of you have had a wonderful past couple of weeks while I was gone. Stay safe out there, everyone.